Successful as an aspiring entrepreneur who wasn't always stressed out and lonely to owning 5 businesses over the course of 20 plus years while navigating marriage, motherhood, and my own personal well-being journeys, all by ditching hustle culture. Through my private one-on-one coaching and my membership, I'm on a mission to teach women how to harness their unique gifts and talents to create success within their lives on a foundation of emotional safety, energetic sustainability, and spiritual self-acceptance. On this podcast, I'll go beyond surface level BS work-life balance tips into soul-centered strategies and mindset shifts so that you can do what you're destined to do and desire to do in your life with harmony, not hustle. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. Today is not a typical sort of interview per se. It's more of a catch up with one of my former clients who is just an amazing person. Tamira Keith is a multi-passionate entrepreneur and creative, and we got to meet a little over 8 years ago. And recently we reconnected, and I wanted to share what you've been up to conversation since we last chatted. So Tamira, welcome to Harmony Not Hustle. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Sonia, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. So thanks for inviting me. I'm happy.
Absolutely. So, like I literally was saying before we start recording, I was like, "Oh, don't say that. Don't tell me. I don't want to hear that because I want it to happen in the conversation." We met originally because way back then, I was known as the brick and mortar maven, and I had created an in-person event where I was taking boutique owners, apparel, accessory, physical product business owners out to LA, showing y'all around, showing y'all how to buy your products, wholesale, all those kinds of things. And you were in one of the first cohorts of that I had did, right? I don't even know, was it maybe?
Yeah, I think we met on Facebook.
Okay, yeah, but then when we met in person, I just feel like there was just a very instant connection, and I can honestly that was the same for everybody there. It was a very
Yeah.
like genuine experience and a lot of fun.
It
Right.
was.
So tell people what brought you to that place at the time.
Okay.
So you
So I
joined
think,
the group because
yeah. So at that time, I was going to the Institute of Washington in Arlington, Virginia. And I was going because I thought, hey, I wanted to be a buyer. So I've always been in love with fashion, and I was thinking, oh, I want to be a buyer. And then at that time, for me, that's when like podcasts first started. So I started listening like to all these different podcasts, and it was like a lot of them teaching you how to basically come up with your own boutique. So then I started doing a lot of research, and at that time, Facebook groups were so good with like finding out different resources and then finding your community to help you. That's when I found you. And I decided, like, hey, I don't want to be a buyer anymore, start my own boutique. So when I started to get in your group and then you shared so much information and knowledge, I was like, okay, this will be the perfect opportunity. So it was a great experience. And, I think that that was one of the things that helped me to figure out, okay, this is really what I want to do. Like
mm-hmm.
I've always knew I wanted to be in the fashion industry, but at the time I didn't know that I could actually start my own boutique and I could be my own boss. I didn't know that. I thought I still had to work in some big corporation and just follow what everyone else was doing to be successful. I didn't know that, hey, you can start your own brand.
Yeah. So you came out to LA, we met, you did that whole experience, you went back, you opened up fashion cart in the mall.
So I started online first. In 2017, it was my 37th birthday, and I opened my boutique until 2018. Then I went into a local mall around May the 1st, 2018. And I stayed there for a couple of months. I was doing a lot of pop-ups too.
Yeah, because that was definitely a strategy that I was teaching. I still think it's a very, very powerful strategy. I think now even more so as we've grown into the online space, like, will you make more money as a pop-up versus online? Probably not. However, in terms of making your first couple $1,000s the quickest, especially now since online is everybody has so much access to all kinds of things. Like, yeah, if that you sitting in my face with this thing and it's right here and right now and I want it, I'm gonna grab that. So I still think that hosting in-person events or pop-ups are really, really powerful tool. So you had those experiences with online, in person with your fashion boutique. Overall, about how long were you in that sort of stage as a multi-passion entrepreneur?
Until like 2023.
Love.
So I do agree with you as far as like going, like doing in-person events, because I think if you just have your boutique online and you don't ever do like a pop-up or, some type of in-person event, to me, you need that connection with your customers. And everyone to me doesn't know how to interact with their customer. You know what I mean? I think it's very
Yeah.
important to have that
And
type of in-person, rapport with your customer.
I also think too, a big part of that really depends on like the entrepreneur themselves, like who you are as a person. I think when your individual way of attracting anything, whether it's people, money, abundance, whatever, some people are really designed. Your energy is what does it. And
That's
I think
true.
that doesn't always translate for everybody online, right? If you have more of an introverted personality,
Okay.
but you enjoy doing certain things in an extroverted way, I think that's
Mhm.
why things like the online marketing can be very challenging for a lot of creatives because they're
Okay.
very into their craft,
Right.
right? They're very
Mhm.
into their craft. They can talk about their craft all day long. They can make
Right.
their product all day long, right? And if you sitting there next to this earring designer, this purse designer, or this stylist,
Mhm.
you're gonna get all that energy when you're like, no, listen, let me show you how you work this, girl.
Right.
This with
Mhm.
it, like
Mhm.
that like
Absolutely.
right. But now when it's like, so you now you need to post 4 times a day. As a creative, I we don't necessarily do that naturally very well,
Right.
right? Where there are other people who are designed where they can do that. They can write a book and it will
Mhm.
magnetize people like that. So I think that's why it's really important. I'm such a huge proponent of like, know who you are. Like for
Yeah.
real,
Yeah.
know who you are on a very deep level because it
Mhm.
really does have an effect on everything you do and how you
Right.
interact with the world.
Mhm.
So, okay, so you did the fashioning all the way up to 2023,
Uh-huh.
but there were some things in between that kind of slid in there.
Yeah, yeah.
All right,
So
so tell me
around
about that. Where'd
So
you
what
go
happened
from there?
was, okay, so 2020, of course, the pandemic. So my
Yeah.
husband, he works as a truck driver. So around that time, he didn't want to go back to work because he had a sick mom that he was taking care of. And he was like, hey, let's just try to start something else. And then the boutique for me, it just was like kind of struggling, right? So I was like,
Okay.
still trying my hardest to like hold on to this, my first love, my passion, like keep that right with me, right? So I just didn't want to let it go, even though to me it just felt like it was not working out, like I was just almost losing my love for it, right? So around this time he was like, hey, um somebody had my husband had a pickup truck, so someone was like, oh, hey, can you come and help clean out my sister's house? So we was like, okay. So the person had like a hoarder's home. You ever watch that show, Hoarders? So
Yes,
I mean,
unfortunately, yes.
yes, and it was like a 3-story home. It was like, and it was just filled cluttery, right? So we was like, okay, hey, won't we start like a cleaning business and we'll just focus on doing hoard clean outs. That was the whole thing.
Okay.
So that's how we started with the first client. I mean, and it took us what, maybe like a month to clean out her home. I mean, it was
Oh my
so much
goodness.
back and forth because of the fact that it was almost like a negotiating process because they didn't want to let go of this, they didn't want to let go of that.
Wait, so you weren't just like, oh, we're gonna clean out houses. Like you had jumped into full on actually doing the work to work with the person to clean
Yes.
out their home.
Yes,
Okay.
and we didn't understand at first, even though I watched that show for years. I still didn't understand, how people get so attached to things, and it's very hard to get people away from their things. So, even though it was, she had poor health and it was just, not a livable condition, it was still like a crazy process for us. And
Yeah,
then
because it
by
had nothing to do with the things. The things were
right,
just what people could see. It was the
exactly.
probably like the trauma.
Yeah.
that she was, yeah, that the
And
things
that's what it's all
represent.
built around, trauma and different things,
Yeah.
right? So basically, we finally, that's why it took us so long. And we were still trying to understand everything with it. So finally, we cleaned out the home and everything. And then we actually realized we loved it, like because I love bonding with people, if I feel like some type of connection. I'm a Cancer, so I'm very emotional, but I if I feel as though we have some type of connection, it's like I get bonded to that person. So
Mhm.
basically, that's how it started. So after we finished cleaning out her home, we made it beautiful. She was able to come back in it and everything. So then she's like, okay, well, I want to hire you guys to come and clean. Can you just come and clean and help me keep it up? So then that
Nice.
happened. And then it was like a word of mouth thing. And then they passed us on to another person. And then we just started full on doing like residential cleaning. And then my
Nice.
husband, he always, loved to cut grass and, make our home look nice. So he was like, hey, I might just add on lawn service, just like a little bit of lawn service, just cutting grass and then doing like, making like doing gardens. So he started to do that. And then by that time, we had, employed like my brothers. It kind of just became like a family business at
Wow. I
first.
love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So let me take you back real quick. When you got that, how did you get that first client? Because you said from there it kind of rolled into word of mouth and things like that. But
Yeah.
how did you get that first one?
Okay. So, like I said, my husband,
Well,
he was a
like, I
truck
guess not
driver.
how, but I guess was it as easy to get the very first client as it was the subsequent ones?
Yeah, because it was kind of like a little side hustle thing. So then when this person asked
Yeah.
us to get rid of stuff and we really didn't know we were walking into, that's how it became a big thing. And so it was like the first client was easy to get. It almost kind of fell in our lap. But then we decided that we were good at it. And
Hmm.
then they were able to pass us along. It was kind of easy. So the first, like I would say, 4 clients
Nice.
with hoarder cleanups were easy to get because they were all word of mouth. Then after that, we transitioned to just doing like residential cleaning.
What I love about like what you're saying, I don't know if you sort of, well, let me ask you, when you look back at sort of like how everything sort of evolved, right? How these, how it just, you just bop, 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 bop. Um, do you know or notice the common thread
No,
for yourself?
no, I don't. I don't know. Maybe I'm missing it. Point it out.
It's it's well, actually you do know it. You're just not aware that you know it.
Right.
It
Okay.
is the, I think it is the nurturing thing. It is,
Okay.
it's nurturing. It's
Mm-hmm.
nurturing. You're a nurturer. You like to help people.
Yes.
And you like to, and you do that through beautification.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter if
Okay.
the beautification is clothes,
Right.
accessories,
Mm-hmm.
a beautiful living space, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Lawns, right?
Right.
Because I know even though he was doing it, I'm sure you had your little, hey, that little topiary over there. You should put
Right.
that up there. I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's what I'm hearing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's that sort of, it's that nurturing piece. And
Okay.
you, and it doesn't matter like where, it don't matter what you do, like
Mm-hmm.
what container it is.
Right.
That's what you're going to bring that into everything that you do.
Oh, you know what? I really didn't think about it until you kind of like broke it down. And I think that is her. I think that's me.
You think that's her?
Yes.
So I'm curious because you mentioned one of the things you mentioned before we started recording, and even when we connected again here recently, and I was like, we got to have a call, girl. We need to talk, but let's do
Mm-hmm.
this as a podcast. When
Mm-hmm.
we first did that about a month ago, you had mentioned then, and also now you work a day job,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a pretty demanding job. And I don't know what that job
Yes.
is, y'all, because I was like, don't tell me nothing about it. I just want to, we'll talk about it. What's your day job? Like what is it you do? You don't have to tell me where you work and all of that, but
Okay.
like what kind of work is
So
it?
so I do work in a hospital. I work in the ICU. So
Didn't I just tell you it's nurturing? I had no idea. I love that.
So yeah, so basically I work like support of the nurses. So like I don't mind telling you. So basically it's just a a patient care technician or whatever. So it's basically just a tech. But we, work in the ICU, which is a very critical, place to work and see so many different things. Like, it was crazy because I'll just tell you this, like my first day I started, I was literally in tears. I was like, I don't think this is for me because, like somebody came in and you know how like you watch TV and you see somebody doing CPR and they're like right on top of somebody, like, and
Mhm.
that's what I first day on the floor. But, I've always felt like I'm a sensitive person, a bright, compassionate person, and caring person. So it's like I knew that I could do this, and it's like I feel good doing it. It's very, demanding and the hours and everything. It's like when I work, I can't do anything but that. But, I will say I like it. I enjoy it. Is it my
Yeah.
passion? No. I will, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I'm never gonna let that go. Even though I have to
Yeah.
spin the block a couple times to come back to it,
Mhm.
it's always gonna be there. But I know I'm also good at other things, and this is one of them. So.
Yeah. Okay. So that brings me to the point of this. Like, the whole time you were telling me, like, oh, because I have this day job now, blah, blah, blah. And I wanted to tell you. So I get it because I do too. And I don't know if you know, but this time last year, I was in a bad place. I was literally near death.
Oh
I
no.
literally, yeah, it was bad. Um, and I talk about it on another episode. And I can link to that in the show notes and stuff like that for those who are watching and listening. But yeah, the short version is January 25th, I was doing my coaching thing. I was like,
Hmm.
I'm gonna go run real quick. I want me some fries from Chick-fil-A. I drove up to Chick-fil-A, sitting on the parking lot, eating my little waffle fries. They was hot and fresh and delicious. And I just started bleeding. I just started bleeding,
Oh
like
my
vaginally. I just
gosh.
started bleeding. I was not supposed to be on my cycle, anything. I had no pain. I was eating and I was just like, oh, it's a little extra moist down there. And I just looked and
Right.
I was just bleeding and I just never stopped bleeding
Oh my
from
gosh.
January 25th until March 22nd, I think it was, is when I had surgery. Turned out I had fibroids. Didn't even know I had fibroids. I go to the doctor every year, multiple times a year. I have a thyroid now. Like, I'm one of those people. I go do all of them exams. I go all deep. We all into it. And that we
Yeah.
still had no idea that was going on, and it was bad. Several blood transfusions
Oh no.
before I could even have surgery because I didn't have enough blood in my body to for them to do the surgery. And when I came out of that, like I was literally in a bed. I couldn't even do my online work. I mean, I was barely here. Like
Right.
I was barely here. Um, when I finally had that surgery and was doing the recovery for that, which I ended up having my uterus, fallopian tubes completely taken out, like through a cesarean type of surgery.
Mm.
The fibroids were so large they couldn't break them up and bring them
Oh my
out vaginally.
gosh.
It was a whole thing. I was like, you know what? Like, I'm ready to get out this house.
Yeah.
When I say get out the house, like I was ready just for everything new. So you mentioned earlier, like when we first got on the call, you were like, oh, you cut your locks off. That it was time for so much to go. It was just literally
Right.
a shedding period. I
Yeah.
shed from the inside out. I had already been like on this 3 year, really intense, like transformation and
Okay.
rediscovery journey,
Mhm.
which happens all the time. I think
Mhm.
people need to understand that we are humans and part of our experience is to evolve, right? So like whether it's in your business, your
Mhm.
professional life, your
Mhm.
relationships,
Mhm.
your physical body, it's made to evolve.
I agree.
If your brain, right? If
Right.
all you stay at is at a third grade mindset,
Right.
you're going to live a very limited life too.
Mhm.
And so when I came through all of that entire process, I was like, yeah, it's time for a whole new thing. I loved my business. I didn't want to stop my business. I knew I wasn't. because I coach even if I'm not getting paid to coach. I
Okay.
help even if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not getting paid to help. I'm going to tell you what I think and let you do with that information what you will, regardless if
Right.
I send you an invoice or not. So I knew my purpose was still going to be fulfilled, but I just knew I needed a pause. I didn't want to be in charge of shit. I didn't want to be running nothing. I just wanted the easiest. I wanted to coast. I'm being a
Okay.
100,000%. As
Mm-hmm.
someone who's been an entrepreneur for 25 years, the easiest way for me to coast, and I wanted some things done, right?
Right. Right.
My retirement, I had already been really focused on building up my retirement. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, you know what? Let me go. I'm gonna go get one of these jobs out here. Because I've been an entrepreneur for 25 years. That doesn't mean I've
Yeah.
never worked a job or in a corporate environment. I always use those to fuel my business. So those are
Exactly.
always like the side hustle, if you will.
Right.
It's been a good 12 years since I had done anything like that, maybe closer to 15. And I was like, I'm gonna go get me a job. And I did, because that's
Mm-hmm.
easy. Guess what? I clock in, I clock out. I don't care nothing about nothing that goes on in there for
I
the
know
most part.
that's right.
I walk out.
Mm-hmm.
But similar to you, my day job is when I'm there, I have to be there.
You have to
Um,
be present. Yeah.
for profit. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I still am in purpose there. I just work with a different demographic. I work with
Okay.
folks who have fleeing domestic violence, and I'm
Oh
their first
wow.
point of contact when they done left.
Oh
It be
wow.
Yeah, they might have left with nothing but, literally a bath towel.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they left with, a bath
Yeah.
towel on their bodies, you know what I mean? There's all is all kind of stories, but it could be corporate. There are professionals who make $200,000-300,000 who find themselves in a shelter, for
Yeah.
domestic violence. So people say, wow, that's really
Mm.
different, I'm saying, like, that's really different from what you were doing. I'm like, it's really not. I'm
Right.
still
You're
helping
still helping
people.
people.
I'm helping people. I'm helping
Mm-hmm.
people transform.
Mm-hmm.
You transforming from this part of your life into the next. That's what I've always helped people do.
Right.
You don't know what to do with your business. You don't know how to get started. I do.
Mm-hmm.
Here's some things you can follow.
Right.
And if you want my help to help you follow those things, I can do
Mm-hmm.
that too. I do that very well. I can be lovingly pushy. That comes very natural. It comes very natural to me.
Hmm.
Did you ever experience me as being lovingly pushy?
I think the only thing that it felt like maybe, and I'm still not good at it, and I don't know if I'm ever going to be, but social media. It seemed like you always were trying to say, well, you gotta post, you gotta do this, you did this. I mean, I think that's the only thing. I think everything else that you told me to do, I did it or whatever. But I think it was just the whole social media thing. It's just like I've tried, but I could never get it.
Let me just say this publicly. I apologize. Um, not not I don't apologize if it felt lovingly pushy, because that I'm a that's what I do. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
coach. I don't think
Hmm.
you wanted someone to be like, no, girl, it's cool. Shit, fuck that.
Right.
Meanwhile, you like, but how, right? But I will say that, going back to what I was saying earlier, we're not all made to be, doing it on social media. So there's still, yes, you still have to market yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
But it doesn't need to be social media. So by doing the pop-ups,
Mm-hmm.
having that having that close interaction, having that energy exchange with people, that is, you are your best marketing tool. And I'm the
Right.
same way,
Mm-hmm.
because I also remember like being like, hey, like, you got to do this,
Mm-hmm.
but also like do it your way. And I would
Right.
always try to, create or help create ways that you can do social media in a way that, because you still had to market in some kind of
Yeah.
way, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I was also I don't want to say a victim, but I also fell in that sort of trap of like,
Yeah.
it's got to be all online. And then it's like, yeah, I'm with you. Some of my best clients, I found you online, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't do that heavy. marketing push. I've never done that heavy, hard selling of like coaching programs that I've been a part of, and that's how they teach, and that's it works for them. Like
Yeah.
clearly worked for them. I mean, I
Hmm.
have invested what people have invested in college tuitions in
In
my own
coaching.
professional development. And I've
Okay.
worked with some of the best out here, and they are the
Hmm.
best. I had to learn that I take what they're teaching and apply it in my own way because I'm not about to be here on an Instagram or anything the majority of my life. I
Exactly.
that don't work for me. You know
Hmm.
what worked for me? Being somewhere, hosting a retreat, going somewhere, talking to people, just telling them what I do. People, me putting stuff out here, and then people see it, and then
Hmm.
they're like, oh,
Hmm.
I just feel something. I've had more people be
Right.
like, I don't even know. I just feel like, and it's like, oh, that's my way.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. So, and
yeah.
that's interesting that you brought that up because I've always had a debate with one of my friends about coaching. And it was like by me being so heavily into trying to figure out the best things for my business, trying to get it to grow. And I believe in coaches. A lot of people don't, only because of the fact that what they see. They see sometimes on social media the scamming and stuff. But I believe what you believe. Like people who run, Fortune 500 companies, people who are already well successful invest in coaches, and that's what I was trying to explain. Like, it's not just the gimmicky, buy this product. It's really people out there who really can help you reach the next level in your business or in your life, if it is a life coach you want to invest into. So I'm glad you said
Yeah.
that because I was wondering, do I know anybody else who feel the same way that I do personally about coaching
Mm.
and, investing into a
Oh,
coach? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Like I'm telling you, a good. I've invested a good 40,000 plus
Mm.
in coaching
Yeah.
programs, either
Yeah.
coaching programs, one-on-one coaching, um, and yeah, and I evolved. Like I always, so I actually started off. Um, I think first is this is where it goes back to like you just gotta know yourself.
Okay.
And it's a process, and you can't
Yeah.
beat yourself up for what you didn't know when you didn't know it, right?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
if we continue to allow ourselves to evolve, to not be afraid to try things and do things, we'll see this, we'll see the pattern, we'll be able to sort of like pinpoint. But in the very, very, very beginning,
Mhm.
when I got into the online coaching space, I was like, I didn't want to call myself a life coach, but I was like, well, I just want to help people figure out what they want to do. It doesn't
Okay.
matter if it's business or whatever. I came into it wanting to do that, just wanting to help people figure out what they wanted to do with themselves, right?
Right.
I had a coach at the time who I loved her. I really connected with her,
Okay.
but her philosophy was she was a business coach. So she didn't do anything wrong. She was really living in who she was. I just had not learned how to be discerning. She was like, yeah, but you've owned like all of these brick and mortar businesses, you've owned all these boutiques, like people will really pay you for that. Like if you teach them how to do that as a
Mhm.
business, people will really pay you for that.
Right.
And true, that's true, and people did, and I'm very grateful. But I was always more than a business coach,
Okay.
right?
Mhm.
What I know now is that, and some people would say, see, well, that's scammy because she was just trying to make you do what she knows how to do. Everybody, generally, we want to help people succeed.
Right.
She was
Right.
successful as a business coach.
Mhm.
She saw that I had the wherewithal and the expertise to be able to do that and
Right.
do it the same way she did. She
Yeah.
wasn't an unethical, right?
Mhm.
That's not on
Yeah,
her.
I agree with that. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Now, do I wish she had been the kind of the kind of coach that I am, where when people be like, when I hear people, when I'm working with folks and they're talking, I'm actually listening to what they really want Sometimes they don't even know that they're saying it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be like, so do you really want to do this or do you really want to do that? Because it
Right.
sounds like you really want to do this, but you think
Mm-hmm.
this is the easier way.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
I grew, and over time, I end up. I mean, I went full circle, like as you say, went full circle. I did all the
Mm-hmm.
business coaching and all of that, and it really took. It took a lot of my clients. A majority of my clients are the ones who told me, "Yeah, you helped me with my business, but
Mm-hmm.
here's what you really did." They will always be like, "Yeah, but," and it would
Mm-hmm.
always be related to this like more life coaching, more like
Right.
you told me what you saw. And that
Right.
alone helped me see myself differently. You know what I'm saying? I just really
Mm-hmm.
need somebody who would just tell me a truth, right?
Right.
Tell me a
Right.
truth.
Right.
Um, and then also too at the time, maybe like around 2019,
Mm-hmm.
I was working with a therapist, and the therapist was like, we were in session and we were talking about something, and I remember my therapist said to me, "Why aren't you a life coach?" I literally was like, "Listen, this is what is happening, but I just feel," and she was, I had my own thoughts around that. I thought that had to look a certain kind of way. I've had people
Mm-hmm.
tell me I should be a minister, and I remember like being like, absolutely not, right? And it was just because I had a vision of what I thought that looked like, and it
Yeah.
didn't look like something I wanted to participate in.
Yeah.
And what I now know and what I've learned is like it can look any way I want to. There's no look.
Right.
There's no look. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
yeah, you just be who you are. And that's why I think titles and boxes and categories, they feel very limiting to creative,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
multi-passionate people, because
Right.
society is like, just pick this thing and do this thing really, really well. So like to your
Mm-hmm.
point where you were like, I do this work and I love it, but it's not my passion.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. Your work every we listen, I clock in that job. That is not my passion, but I still
Right.
get to be in purpose. And I
Exactly.
think sometimes we use that word interchangeably, like passion
Mm-hmm.
and purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and they're two different things.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're two different things.
Mm-hmm.
So where are you now, like with your passion? Because I know, at least from my perspective, it seems like overall it's a nurturing purpose,
Mm-hmm.
and it shows up in these different sort of passion packages of beautifying and styling. Like, where are you at right now? Because passions change too.
Yeah, yeah. So right now is like I'm just trying to figure out, okay, I want to start back up the whole boutique, or do I want to just start something else out with like accessories and then vintage things? That's what I was thinking because that's always been my love too.
Mm,
So
mhm,
I said by the summer I've given myself a deadline. I wrote down so many different plans. And so I was like, that's when I'll come back out with it. And I've also had a podcast. Like my whole thing with me is, and my friends say this too, um, you start so many things, but sometimes when life be life and it getting in the way, I will say that I stop things. And then sometimes
yeah.
it's hard for me to pick them back up because kind of like what you said, I'm thinking like it doesn't look like it's supposed to look, Like with my podcast, I started in 2019 and then some things happened and I stopped podcasting. I think I almost just kind of didn't have the motivation for it. And then my friends like,
Mhm.
you need to get back with it. Like you were so good at it. It's just like this is something that I struggle with. You know, when things are not going a certain way for me and I kind of like put things on, it's hard to pick it back up because I feel like I progressed because I
But
paused it.
but
If that makes
but what
sense.
if, I mean, but what if certain things you paused? See, you saying pause, right? So maybe certain
Mhm.
things you actually did pause, and
Mhm.
then maybe some things you just ended because that's no longer the direction, right?
Right.
Because I
Right.
get that too. That's that thing where it's like, oh, well, you start a bunch of things, but you don't finish them. See,
Yeah.
now this is where I get into my holistic thing, Because everybody is not here to do that. There are people who are here to just innovate. They just,
Yeah.
y'all, some people's whole job is to just have ideas
Right.
all day long, right? Their whole purpose is just to have these great ideas. But
Hmm.
there, I've always been spiritual,
You
like
have been, yeah.
astrology, numerology, and feng shui, and all of these modalities. Probably about 5 years ago, I started getting into human design as well too. Like I love anything that's gonna help me observe and learn more about humans. I'm into it. I just love studying people and behaviors
Okay.
and whatnot.
Hmm.
But I don't care if it's Briggs Meyer. I don't care if it's your big three in astrology,
Hmm.
your human design. Like all of these things say the same things about people,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
And y'all, with all of these modalities, there is there is balance. Okay.
Okay.
Because I hate when
Hmm.
people are like, oh, well, I don't know. I don't really resonate with being a Pisces because I'm like, well, if all you're doing is going off of your sun sign, that is
Hmm.
one aspect. That's one tiny piece of a whole natal chart. Of course, you
Right.
don't resonate
Right.
with everything about that because that's not, no one person is everything of one sign.
Fine. Yeah.
Don't get me on my tangent. But
Well, you know what?
manifesting
I would just interject. That's probably me because I'm a girl that's all about cancers, and if I meet a cancer that I don't get along with, I'm devastated because I'm like, I've never met a cancer I don't get along with, you know. So,
yeah. But that okay, so like this is what I tell people about
hmm
astrology. And
hmm
if you don't know nothing else, at least know your big three and know what they
okay,
mean. Right.
I gotta
So
look that
you're a
up.
Cancer, that's your sun sign. So
Right.
that's like your base
Okay.
foundationally, you're nurturing, foundational, you're a very emotional, you're a water sign. Okay, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's, if nothing else about your chart, there's two other. You should know your rising or your ascending, which is like
Oh.
you will start to take on these particular traits. And most
Oh.
people who meet you automatically see those traits, even if you don't identify with them yourself. So, as
Okay.
an example, my sun sign is Pisces,
Okay.
right?
I love
And
Pisces.
and also just okay. And then what people also too don't understand is like even within your sun sign, there are three categories. They call them deacons within your sun
Oh.
sign.
Okay.
So there are people who are Pisces, like say like Erica Badu,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or a Rihanna, they're Pisces. But
Mm-hmm.
they're closer to the first deacon. This is why Erica Badu is like, she got that Aquarian vibe. She got a lot
Mm-hmm.
of innovate, futuristic because she's a Pisces, but she's closer to the Aquarius side of Pisces,
Okay. Where
right?
do I find this information? Tell me so I can look it up.
Girl, like every client that I work with now, it's like we don't even get started. We gonna do your whole. I need to know your chart, astrology, human design, and Briggs Myers. Like I'm bringing that into
I'm gonna look
everybody.
all that up.
But
Okay.
your big three, if you go to like astrology cafe or something like that
Okay.
.com,
Uh-huh.
you can get a full natal chart, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll also show you like your big three, your
Okay.
sun, your moon, and your rising, right?
Sun, moon, and rising. Okay.
Sun, moon, and rising. But I think our consistent threads, each person, when
Yeah.
you really do go through the process of just being reflective and getting
Mm-hmm.
to know who you are, you'll
Mm-hmm.
see your threads, you'll see your patterns, which I think can help you give yourself grace
Yeah.
as
Cause
you
that's
evolve and
yeah.
pivot and
Mm-hmm.
change and not feel like, what are you doing wrong? I don't know why
Yeah.
I can't ever just pick up stuff. Because it's okay. That's not meant.
Mm-hmm.
What sometimes certain things you pick up, you were supposed to pick it up for that moment,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it.
Mm-hmm. And then I
And
have
then
to be
certain things you
emotionally
were supposed to come
involved.
back to, but in a
Yeah.
different way. And you
Yeah.
got to allow that time to process it for it to come to you.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And it's like I have to be emotionally involved. Like I can't do something just because. It's not gonna work for me, you know. So if I'm not feeling it, like, then I have to feel it before I'm gonna pick it back up, And
That,
sometimes people don't understand that because they say, well, you just can do it, but I can't, it doesn't work for me like that. So
yeah. I would guess. that you are a manifesting generator. You have an emotional, what they call an emotional authority, which
Mhm.
means you make decisions. Everything is about how you feel. And that would make sense because you're a Cancer, which is a water sign, which is all about
Yeah.
feelings. I'm the
Yeah.
same way.
Mhm.
What do you want to
Mhm.
eat? I don't know. I don't know if I
Mhm.
feel like that.
Mhm.
You want to go,
Right.
you where you want to go out of town to? I don't know. So I gotta see how I feel. Like
Right. Mhm.
and I'm with you if I don't really feel it. It's not going to do what it's supposed to do if I don't energetically feel connected to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it might be the bombest idea, concept, strategy all day long, but if
Mhm.
I can't, I'm just, and I don't. So I no longer
Right.
even try. When
Yeah.
something is like that ain't, I don't know, I just it'll stay on the back burner till till it changes. And if it never
Right.
changes, then I that's fine too. I think
Mhm.
for me, learning how to just be okay with not finishing a thing and not and understanding that that doesn't mean that I failed or that it just means that's no longer it.
Yeah. And that's where I'm trying to be. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. You talk about like your podcast and getting back on schedule with that. Like
Yeah.
what if the schedule that you get back on is I'll record an episode when I actually feel like I have something to say.
Yeah, and that's it too. And it's also because of the fact that with my podcast is inspirational and it's also tied to my belief as a Christian. So basically
Sure.
when I do my episodes, it's always tied down to a verse or what it is biblically I'm learning. I try to add that
Yeah.
into it. So if I didn't study that week or that day or it didn't come to me, then I'm not just gonna get on the podcast and start rambling, unless it's a more of a vulnerable episode like I did when I started the new season, right? But if it's something that I'm trying to get across and it's something that I think that helped me, I want it to be correct and from a sincere place. So it's like I can't
Absolutely.
just go in and okay, let me just jot down this and then say this. It's not sincere. It's not what I really feel. So if that makes
Yeah.
sense, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So I know we're planning on sharing this episode on both of our shows. So tell people the name of your podcast.
my podcast is called Culture Plus Kingdom and Entrepreneurship. I know it's a long name, but yeah, it's a great podcast. I do solo episodes and I also interview like different people in ministry, entrepreneurs, and you can find it on all everywhere you can get your podcast, but mainly Spotify, Apple.
Okay, that's perfect. I did hear your first episode from your new season.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I always say we have to know who we are and we have to be courageous enough to follow our own instinctual, I'll call it like a soul led strategy. Is if you hadn't posted that post
Mm-hmm.
when you posted it, and the algorithm didn't let it show up when it showed up, when I just happened to get on there randomly, right? If I
Right.
had been like, let me open up Facebook, and I'd have been like, yeah, no. If I had not followed my intuitional urge to do what we would have missed each other. This is
Yup, that's
why,
true.
in my opinion, like there is no coincidences. It's just are we if you follow what's being shown, given to you, you'll always be on time. You'll
Right.
always
Right.
be on time. You'll meet the right people. But if
Mm-hmm.
you talk yourself out of it for whatever reason, I'd have missed that episode where you posted it, which then was like, oh my God. And then I was like, ooh, I love this for her. This is so right on time. It
Mm-hmm.
actually spoke to me as well. And that's when I was like, we need to connect because we need to catch
Right.
up. And I
Right.
want everybody to see what this goodness is, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If I'd have been like,
And I was
well,
so surprised.
let
Mm-hmm.
me, I don't know, because I should probably, I mean, I ain't talked to her like in a couple years. I should probably start off warming this whole, I ain't got time for that.
I know. I'm glad you
Let's
didn't.
reform the relationship. I mean, when you have a real, genuine relationship with somebody, at least
Right.
for me,
Right.
I don't have to have talked to you every week of every month over the
Mm-hmm.
last 8 years to feel like I can reach out and be like, hey, XYZ.
Right.
We was cool or we weren't. I
Right.
feel like we've
Exactly.
moved from like a professional relationship
Mm-hmm.
to more of a like a friendly relationship. And
Right.
to
Right.
me, most of them, that's how it ends up like with
Yeah.
most of my clients. You know what I mean? When
Yeah.
I'm running my multiple boutiques, I still have customers who reach out to me. You know what I mean? Like we
Mm-hmm.
built friendships off the fact that
Yeah.
they come and buy things out of my boutiques. Do
Mm-hmm.
you have like those certain customers
Yeah,
like
yeah, I do. Some of
that they
them,
turn
yeah.
into friends and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
We'll just, like you said, conversate over social media. They'll be like, "Oh, well, what's going on with this? Or what's going on with that?" So yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh. I have enjoyed hearing your evolution, you know, from 8 years ago when we first met, how we
Mm-hmm.
connected, seeing the similarities
Right.
between us both, not just
Mm-hmm.
professionally, but just our personal
Yeah.
epiphanies, our
Mm-hmm.
lives, and really growing and embracing that. So it was just really wonderful to catch up with you, to see you, and all those things. I
Mm-hmm.
hope everyone goes and checks out the Culture and
Yeah.
Kingdom.
Culture plus kingdom and entrepreneurship. Yep.
Yeah. There we go. I love a long name. I can't talk short, girl. They be like, just wrap it up. I'm like, that's not in my nature.
I know, right?
This is
And
me in
I'm
a
so
6 minute,
glad you.
a 6 second reel ain't never been my ministry. So
I know. And I'm so glad you reached out to me too. Like I was so surprised, but I'm so glad you did it. I'm so glad it aligned the way it aligned. And you invited me to do this podcast. I'm so happy to catch up with you and just to hear someone that I believe speaks authentically and true to me. I don't know if you know, but just talking to you today, like really kind of helped me. When I speak to somebody that I feel is being authentic and true, and also inspirational. Like, so I am so happy that we got time to do this and connect.
absolutely. Well, thank you all too for all that are listening and watching. I'm recording this on my podcast, the Harmony Not Hustle podcast. If you guys enjoyed this conversation, this kind of content, make sure you check the show notes or the description. If you're watching on YouTube, I have links where you can learn more and get these insightful tidbits. I also have a private podcast with exclusive content and my email newsletters. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, and yeah, we're going to stay connected.
Definitely.
If you want to reduce your risk of burnout by 50% while increasing your energy and work-life balance, then you need to check out my website linked in the show notes.